What is up, everybody? Calling all angels. Welcome to the Wings of the Angels podcast recap for the match that just occurred here. Well, I can honestly say I'm glad I did not make the expenditure to make that trip over, stay overnight based on that result. Definitely feel like I would have been more than a little frustrated with that result. But for those who are just seeing this come in now, Racing Louisville came to town and took their last place focus, changed up their lineup, even though they literally sat out one of their potential star players. There was rumors of her being traded away. The new lineup actually seemed to come in with a fire lit under them and came away with a 2-1 victory over Angel City. So, okay. Let's go over what we have here. This is what I was kind of mentioning in the live is what is known, at least within my family and inner circles, as homecoming game syndrome. Tonight was Pride Night for Angel City. And unfortunately, what tends to be common is because of all of the stuff going on, because of just a lack of focus, because of all the ceremony and all the pomp and circumstance, and people coming in that you're not usually expecting to see. Like I saw a couple of players who were injured for Angel City making their appearance for the first time in a while. Even we had some interviews being taken advantage of before the match started. But that usually leads to the team coming out flat because their head isn't in it. And usually with homecomings, you end up setting up a fairly easy opponent because of that. Specifically for the rationale, your team is going to take a while to charge up. They might need time in the second half to charge up if there's any halftime festivities that they're going to be part of. So with homecoming, you basically throw a tomato can at them. You might struggle early, but eventually everything kind of works out. Against professional opponents, even a team with like Racing Louisville, who has been struggling mightily this year, you can't do that. That is not a thing you can really manage. Now, admittedly, from a standing standpoint, there was no better team to put against them, but the fact remains this is an aggressive offense, and they had something to prove. There has been a lot of talk for weeks, myself included, basically talking about how Louisville's team was basically in tank mode and everything was ready to blow up, and that they had Sears, their star player, was probably on her way out, and they were probably setting up a trade. But in spite of everything, you cannot go in completely flat, and I felt like there was a lot of that in Angel City where it just was not there. Like the energy up front was not really there. So let me move through. I have this thing set up. I'll have to shrink this down pretty far, but I managed to make it fit. I'll go here in this middle part so I can actually have a little more space. There we go. All right. So Macy Hodge gets injured in the 7th minute, and that requires Sarah Weber to come back in for Louisville. She was going to probably be a late game sub. She ends up getting brought in, and it kind of lights a fire under the team where I don't necessarily know how hyped they were, but it gave them some type of a rallying point for sure. Louisville played pretty well, all things considered, for that first quarter of the game, that first 22 and a half minutes. Even though they were being outpossessed most of the way, like I don't think at any point, once you got around the 15th minute, possession I don't think ever got closer than like 64 to 36 in terms of percentages. Angel City was dominating possession, but they weren't dominating shots. Like, they were not getting meaningful shots that could actually test the keeper or take advantage of structural weaknesses in Louisville's defense, which there are plenty. And this ended up blowing up in their face when Maya Lardner, who had been put up near the front where Sears normally would be, she is able to get a rebound shot that bounces Angelina Anderson. Probably not. Probably not a good play, all things considered. She gave it a good save, but rather than stomping it into the ground and pulling it in, she lets it bounce out where there's still a lot of live play happening. Lardner takes advantage, and that is her first career goal in NWSL. That gets Louisville up 1-0. They nearly go up 2-0 about 10 minutes later as the ball goes in a second time, but this time VAR does... actually, sorry, not VAR. The whistle is actually blown for an offside, and it's struck pretty much instantly. And Angel City just was out of sorts after that first goal, basically until nearly the end of the half. Nothing was looking right. The defensive line was doing a pretty okay job of it, but a lot of the controlled passes that Giselle Thompson usually generates were not falling. She did not have a really good string of looks until probably the last minutes of the match. They had put a... they changed up their lineup a little bit defensively, and you can see it here. This is the lineup in place. Carson Cherry was one of the main defenders for a large portion of that match. And she held her own, but there was definitely mistakes made in the early going, but she played fine. I'm not going to really ding her too bad on that. And the defensive line did, for the most part, work out, except for one play I'll get into in a moment. The issue was the midfield did not seem like they were handling the pressure of Louisville very well. A lot of inaccurate cross passes, a lot of long passes. Trying to get up to the front line was extremely difficult. I do think a little bit was Mayara. I don't know how solid her knee was at that moment, but just something, like, it never seemed like she had clicked into full gear. Jonsdottir did fine, but really didn't get a good opportunity to get a good shot, and a lot of that was bad feeding. A lot of the corner kicks just were horribly inaccurate. And so this has been a problem for Angel City for a while. It had been going away for most of this month, but it reared its ugly head hard in this match. It did not look great. Those setup passes into the box, there was just no opportunity to gain shots. Positioning was off in the box. They would load too few of people. Everyone was too tightly packed to the point where you had to hit that spot and the ball just wasn't anywhere close to it. There was a lack of execution at a level that deeply concerned me. And so, anyway, we get through. Like I said, Emily Sams gets a yellow card. Maya Lardner actually gets one, trying to stop a threat during injury time. But we get into the second half. First 10 minutes, usually when a goal, there's a real opportunity for one. Angel City's not able to get really any shots, and yet there is still a goal from Lardner again. On this one, it is set up. Kayla Fisher passed it straight to her. There was so much poor spacing here. And this one, actually, I would treat... This one I'm not putting on the keeper. Like, I would give the first goal a little bit to Anderson more than anyone. This one, it falls on the defense because this ball is easy to clear. Or or should easily be cleared because it's coming straight at you. And it's a misread on depth. Ball goes, basically it passes right through them, which allows it to go straight to Lardner, who now has a clean shot. I don't want to call it necessarily easy because on a professional, like easy for a professional, this is one of those cans of corn. I don't know why I just said can of corns. Where you would expect this play to be stopped like every time because it is literally like set up. This is why you have the defense down there to do exactly this, and the miss is devastating because now Angel City has a little over a half hour to generate 2 goals. They're not able to take advantage fully. Janzader does get a goal finally off a long pass from Sophia Matisse, who had subbed in a little earlier in the 80th minute. And they did get a lot of good shots where there were finally a lot of saves by Louisville's keeper late. Definitely an excellent effort there to keep the lead. But the fact remains, it should not have gotten to that point where you needed to pile in a bunch of shots and hope one slipped past. Both were the result of some pretty iffy mistakes. They reminded me of lapses that Team Mexico had against England. This game actually reminded me a lot of the Team Mexico match versus England. And it was a frustrating thing to view because you've seen this team clicking so well for weeks, and against an opponent that you would figure should be the easiest of the set, it is very, very much not the case. I will say it is somewhat of a matchup thing. Louisville has historically given Angel City problems, even when they're not very good, and in this case, they are absolutely not very good. But it was just major miscalculations, coming out way too flat against a team that stylistically always gives you problems. Yeah, there was a lot off here, and I will also attribute a little, like, you're still getting used to your coach. There is some mistakes here that might not have happened if you'd had enough time to really prep, because this was the first real bit of adversity Angel City's had since the coaching change, and it was an interesting setup. I am glad they at least managed a goal. And let's take some positive from that. They started to finally generate stuff, but what finally did it was they loaded up a lot of attackers. Like, basically all the forwards were in by the end. And you can't really do that in a 90-minute setting. That really is a short burst kind of thing. And that is not something that you want to try to sustain long term. I know not having Priska Chilufya while she's at WAFCON probably did some damage as well. But long story short, this did some serious damage to Angel City's surge that they were going on. A victory in this match puts you in 6th place and puts you in striking distance of 5th and 4th. And a loss now kind of sets it back that you have this trail of teams challenging you from behind, where you now are in a position where you have to perform each week under the hard pressure. So that is going to be tested next week with Kansas City in the rematch. They got the win on Kansas City at home, but now going back over to their place, they've been playing pretty cold. They took a loss to Boston this week. There's going to be a lot of intrigue there. I'll be recording a match preview for that in the coming days. But for the time being, Angel City just needs to really look inward on this one and determine what do we need to do to make sure that this comes across as a fluke. This cannot be the normal where a team being aggressive is all it takes. Because there are teams who are capable of doing that. I mean, Gotham isn't one of them. Portland isn't one of them. But Washington absolutely is. I would say there are teams definitely capable of it, and Washington is the big one in that group, and ultimately that's who you're chasing. Whether it be whether you think you have that thin chance at getting the Shield, or whether you expect that you might have to play them in the Cup. If you are looking to make a serious run this year, which the team does have a lot of talent, you have to be able to get the communication issues cleaned up pretty quickly. And so it's got to be a rapid turnaround. I am confident that they can give that their effort, and I am cautiously optimistic for it. But yeah, needs to be stated pretty bluntly. That performance was not up to what it looked like in the previous few weeks this month. It was not to the level that a playoff team needs, and you cannot be dropping points to a team that's fighting with Chicago to avoid the back of the table. So, lesson learned. Hopefully, things go well in Kansas City. For the time being, really have gone a pretty good bit of depth out of that. Congrats to Maya Lardner for her first 2 goals. Definitely lady of the match for either team. Just a great effort all around from her. And other than that, also kudos to Louisville's keeper for most of this match. Very impressive effort from Bloomer, who had a clean sheet for nearly 80 minutes of the match and made a lot of saves overall. In total, I'm just double checking, she had to make 5 saves on it, which was not as much as Anderson, who got a lot of shots there. Shots on goal was 8-6, by the way. And in terms of pass accuracy, Angel City had dominated as well. So it was probably a stressful time in goal to only give up 1. So in that sense, hard-earned. I can't really say much otherwise. Just really solid effort from Racing Louisville. I tip my hat to you. It was well-earned. Can't really front that way. Expected goals, by the end, Angel City did have it better, but that was mostly concentrated in the last 10 minutes as they tried to make a comeback with the bus parked. So, not much else to say, but don't start that slow again. Do not wait until the last 15 minutes to go on the attack. Anyway, that concludes this one. Happy Pride Night to you all anyway. Hopefully you were able to still celebrate well from the pregame and from Jonsdottir's goal. Enjoy the belated festivities. Shame we couldn't do it in June. Probably will still be a situation next year because June will be the Women's World Cup and literally no one is going to be available for that one. But yeah, enjoy your week. Enjoy your football. Lots of great games coming up. We'll talk about them all this week. But for now, in spite of the effort and in spite of the disappointment, go Angels, everybody. Have a good week.